Ekev Aleph. Actually, the title is Ekev and Chof Menachem. It's a sikha that also connects to Chof Ov, which is going to be Monday, the yahrzeit of the Rebbe's father. And we tried in this year to learn the sikha that is on the project. Look at the sikha is not always as it comes out. So if it comes out, so this is also part of the project. Look at the sikha. It's sikha on Pasha Ekev together with Chof Ov. We see in Pasha's Ekev, the Torah talks about Misas Arein, tells us about Arein's passing away. And that comes right after the Torah talks about the Shviras HaLuchas, that Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchas. So we know there is a concept of smiches, that we darshan smiches. That means in the Torah, when the Torah tells us, put certain things together, we darshan what is the connection between the two. So here, also, the reason why the Torah wrote the union of breaking the luchas close together with the union of Arein passing away, Omr Razal, so Chazal said, that the reason is because when tzaddikim die, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is hard. It means it's hard for him. It's a bad thing, so to speak, like the breaking of the luchas. So we compare the two, that's why they're written together. So here, that's why when it says Misas Arein, which are Misas of Tzaddik, is close to the union of Shviras HaLuchas, breaking the luchas, because it's both of them hard for David. So the Rebbe says like this: when the Torah, which is a Torah of truth, compares two things, so it's a real comparison. That means they both are taka the same. And not just it includes a lot of things, that all the things that are in one are also in the other. It means the comparison of the death of tzaddikim to the break of the luchas. It's not only because they're both hard. You could pick two things, they have no connection, but if this is hard and this is hard, you could connect the two. But in Torah, everything is exact. So it's not only because they're both hard for the Eibishter. But and not only that, the level of how hard it is also equal in both. Must be that the teichen, the meaning, the contents of each one is the same. That's why we compare them. That's the reason of the comparison. The fact that they're both hard and the same level of hardness, that's the result. See, we look at it, we would think, Poshup Shat, how are they compared? They're both hard, they're both equally hard. But it's not like that. They're both compared because they're both compared. The two things have the same meaning. And because they have the same meaning, that's why the result is that they're both hard and they're both hard equally. Now, since the teichen of both is the same, is equal, similar, so even the details that we find concerning the breaking of the luchas, we have to find something similar in the misas of tzaddikim when a tzaddik dies. So you have to understand what is the similarity between breaking the luchas and the misa, the death of tzaddikim generally, and how are they similar in the details? They're two separate things. They're both, so to speak, bad things, but they're not similar. Obviously they are. How? Then the Rebbe continues another shaila. We know that breaking the luchas is called a tzore. The Rebbe quotes in the order from the Rambam, Hilchas Tainis, when he talks about the Tainesim that we have, because tzores happened, and one of the things is Shiva Osir B'Tammuz, one of the days, and what is the tzore? The luchas were broken, so luchas broken is a tzore. And koshel of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Here we even say that it's hard even for the Eibishter to do. We find that there's something good in it also. To prove it, when Eden went to war, they would take along the oren which had the broken luchas in it, not the regular oren which had the luchas. They took the oren to war, the one that had the broken luchas. It's very hard to understand. Bringing the broken luchas reminds the Eibishter the Yitz Averis. And not stam an avei lechet egel. It reminds him of the Chet Egel, She'ol of Nemer. Chet Egel is so bad that the Torah says, Ubiyei Pogdi, Upagaditi Aleim Chatosam. Anytime the Eibishter remembers any Avera, he will remember the Chet Egel. And then the Chazal say, Ein Puron Yisbog Yisrael, She'ein Bok Tzasi Puron Navin Egel. Never does Hashem punish the Eden for anything without adding a little bit punishment for the Egel, which shows that the Chet Egel is something that continues and continues. And when you show the broken luchas, which came as a result because they made the Egel, so what does it do? It reminds the Avedas of the Eden. How is it possible when Eden go to war? When you go to war, you go to a dangerous place, you need a limud schus. You need to find schusim, merits of Eden. And you have to be made a rachmim through doing mitzvahs and ma'asim tevim. Like it says, when you will go out with a machne, with the army against your enemies, make sure that your machne should be holy. Why? Because if you want to win the war, you have to do good things. You have to have holiness. And the Ha'orah that Rabbi even brings, there's a posik that says, Shema Yisrael, that they talk to the Eden and said, Shema Yisrael, so the Chazal say that the schus of Shema Yisrael is also a good schus. All that shows that when it comes to war, we're looking for schusim. So dafke oz yikchu imo and ashib leluchas, and then they should take the broken luchas. Dover hamaskir cheto egel luchul is something that reminds the Eibishter of the cheto egel. Umizem muchach, that proves shedafke b'shivrei haluchas yashina shel limit schus al b'nei Yisrael hayetzil l'muchama. That proves that there must be something good, a limit schus, in the fact of the broken luchas. And actually, in the order 6 star, the Rebbe says that, after he was Magiya the Sicha, he says, I found in the Ramban, in the end of the first Perek of Baba Basra, it says that the Shivrei Luchas are loved by Hashem, because if it would be not so, he wouldn't say to put it in the order because Ein Kateg Nasa Sanega. So all the show is that broken Luchas must have something good. More. It must be not Stamas Chus, a great Chus. Because they took it to war. The soldiers that went to war were all tzaddikim. So the Balaturim says. What makes us say that? Because and tzaddikim that only had good things, mitzvahs and ma'asim tevim. Because if somebody was afraid because he had avedas, so nitztave, he was commanded, you have to go home. Don't frighten the Eden if you're going to be afraid of your avedas. And the Rebbe brings in the order here from the Rashi is mashma that when they announced that anybody who has aveda should leave, is not that you could leave if you want. If you're afraid, we give you a choice to leave. You have to leave. Comes out that anybody who went to war, every soldier had no avedas, because if he had avedas, he'd leave. So they were all tzaddikim. And that is not enough. They also said that you have to have the broken luchas coming along with them. What kind of sense does it make? If the broken luchas seem to be something that reminds the Eibishter of Avedas. Now move on. So obviously it's something good in it. Okay. So it's something good. Obviously we don't know yet what, but for sure there's something good in the broken luchas. Now since now, based on what we said before, that the two are compared, they're similar, that tzaddik passes away is similar to breaking of the luchas. So if the breaking of the luchas is something good, so we understand so there must be something good by the death of tzaddik. There's a special big mile, extra mile, similar to mile. We have to say that. So it must be that way. And then the Rebbe adds here in the brackets, we could even add a deeper pshat. Now when it says that we quoted the Loshen before of the Chazal, that the death of tzaddikim is kosher, is hard for the Eibishter. Hard for the Eibishter means it's a bad thing. And it's hard for the Eibishter feels bad about it. But now that we said that there must be something good in the Shviras Haluchas, and automatically something good, the same type of goodness in the Mises of tzaddikim, so the Rebbe has a new taich, that when it says kosher misosan shel tzaddikim fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shviras Haluchas, it says the word kosher, it's hard. This is also a remez for the good part of it. Because normally we learn they're both very bad things and they're kosher, they're hard. But now that we're saying they have something good in it, the word kosher could mean that too. Where do we see it? Because we find that same lashon kosher for the Eibishter in something that's very good. Like it says, kosher, etc. It says kosher lezavgon. It's hard for the Eibishter to make shidduchim like kriyas yamsuf. So what do we see here? That the word kosher goes on kriyas yamsuf. Now kriyas yamsuf was a bad thing. One of the biggest, greatest nisim, that word, the best thing that could happen. And we say the word kosher. So kosher, it's a simple pshat in that Chazal is that nises of tzaddikim is hard, meaning it's not so good. But being that we said there must be something good in it also, so the Rebbe said, yes, we can touch kosher for that too. Because kosher for Hashem sometimes even go on something that's good. But the question is, you have to understand, what is the maila? We said there's something good. What is good about the death of tzaddikim and the breaking of the luchat? They are something that is completely against the maila. It's a chesron, it's bad. What good is there in it? That's what we're going to find out, what is good. Okay, so now the Rebbe starts the answer. By the first luchas it says, the luchas were made by Hashem. They were an act of Hashem's doing. And the writing on it was written by Hashem. Chorus al luchas carved out in the luchas. That means like this. The luchas had two milas. One is milas haluchas mit aratzmon. The mila of the luchas itself. The luchas were made by Hashem. So imagine something that's made by Hashem, how special that is. Before we even get to the words, just the luchas themselves are made by Hashem. He actually, in order 11, he brings from Medrash, haluchas l'nivu min order tzelum in hashamayim. The luchas were made in shamayim. They're the Eibishter's thing, so that's one mila. And then the second thing, Beis, my losom said michtav alekim hachoros haluchas. The mila that there was the writing on it, and who wrote it? The Eibishter wrote it, so it's michtav alekim. You see, that's the mile of the first luchas. The second luchas were not like that. Second luchas, the Eibishter told Moshe Rabbeinu, the psolacha, you carve out, you make the luchas and bring it up to me, and I'll write on it. So the second one had the michtav alekim, but not the ma'isa alekim of the luchas. But the first one had the ma'isa alekim on the luchas themselves. Okay. Now, now, even though we just said that the luchas themselves had a great mila, the mila that is ma'isa alekim. The Chazal say like this, that when Moshe came down, he broke the luchas. So there are different opinions what happened there. But the Chazal say one thing like this. Nistakel, Moshe looked at the luchas, he saw that the writing flew away. Now, Poshup Shat means the words flew away. But the Rebbe is going to say later that it doesn't mean the physical words flew away. It means the Ruach HaKodesh, the Kedusha of the words flew away, whatever it means. Omar, so Moshe said, how could they give them the luchas? There's nothing there. There's no mamish in it. Elo eches, therefore I will hold on it, I'll break it because there's no use in giving it to thee. That's what it says. Not understood. Number one, even after the writing, the words flew out. So they didn't have the words. But didn't we say before that besides the words, the luchas themselves were ma'aseh elikim made by the Eibishter. So it's not as great as it was when the words were there. So now it doesn't have that second mile, but it still has the first mile. How does it make sure there's no mamish in it? No mamish. It's chas v'sholom. You say a ma'aseh elikim, it's not no mamish in it. That's one kasha. Then he has another kasha. Ein b'hem mamish. If it has no mamish, he said, Tam shleitum leYisrael. So the reason why I shouldn't give it to them. Kiim, what should you do with it? Legain zone. Hide it. Put it away someplace. Kayetza or something like that. Avalei Yinyan the bizoyin Schapiro. Why would he break it? Breaking it is a bizoyin. Not nice. Taking the luchas and break it. So two kashas. One kasha is, why does he say it has no mamish? And even if the it doesn't have mamish, why break it? Don't give it to them. And the third kasha, he said, Eches, I'll hold on to it. Because he saw the letters flew away, so it has no mamish, I'll hold on to it and I'll break it. What does it have to say? I will hold on to it. Pshita the tzarech li'seches. For sure, he has to hold it in order to break it. You got to hold it and throw it down. Micah Mashmalon. What is the telling you that I will hold it and break it? And the Rebbe says the Shkasha is only the Pirush Zeh. According to this Pshat, there is another Pshat in Chazal that what happened was Moshe came and wanted to break it, and the Skenim saw it, and they started grabbing it away from him, not letting him break it. And Moshe had a tug of war. Moshe was fighting. So according to that Pshat, we understand why it says, I'll hold it. I'm going to not let go of it. So you shouldn't be able to take it away from me. So I'll hold it and schlep it away from you, hold it and break it. But according to this Pshat, the way we just said now, doesn't say anything that the Skenim were fighting with him. All it says is he saw there was no more riding, so it has no mamish. So I'll hold on to it and break it. So Rebbe, what do you mean hold on to it? He's holding on to it. Obviously. So Avdir Bezes, the Rebbe explains this, Bemis, in two ways. The second way the Rebbe calls more Signa Nacher, but the first way, it's not only a Signa Nacher, it's like two Pshatim. And with Behagdem Dugma Ladover, first bringing a Dugma. So this piece, I'll have to tell you, this whole next piece, this whole next 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, the Rebbe himself wrote in the Sikha. See, usually the Sikha is written and the Rebbe adds a word here, changes here, adds. This the Rebbe added a whole new musik, a whole new here. Very bekitzer, very hard to understand. So if you learn it yourself, you probably wouldn't know what the Rebbe is trying to say here. So let me give a shikl hakdama to understand it. I'll say it by heart first, and then I'll explain what it is. There's a din. The Rebbe gives hakdama from Mahalocha. There is a din, and the pshat that I'm saying is, I think the pshat is. I can't even say for sure that that's the pshat. There is a din in halacha that a geilam chaymer, if you have a raw piece of material that is usually used to make a keli out of it. Let's say you have a raw piece of silver. Now, from silver, you make a becher, you make a keli. A raw piece of chaymer, of material, as expensive as it is, as precious as it is, can become tummy. That's a din. Can be, if a tummy will touch it, won't become tummy. Only when you finish, you make it into a keli. And not only that, it only becomes tummy when you make it into a keli as you planned. Let's say a person meant to make it into a keli, into a becher, let's say, with a stem. But he just, in the meantime, made it into a becher without a stem, but didn't finish what he wanted. It still can become tummy. It only becomes tummy when he finished it into a keli with the shleimus that he wanted. Then it could become tummy. What happens if it becomes tummy at that point? So it's tummy because it became a shleimus dikekele. What happens if now that shleimus went away? Using my example, what happens if he made the becher with a stem? Now it's complete becher what he wanted. It became tummy, and now the stem fell off. So now it's back to the beginning. Now, had this been the way it was in the beginning, it couldn't become tummy. Now it's back to the way it was in the beginning. The tumah still doesn't go away. The tumah still stays. And what do you got to do with it in order to take away the tumah? If you break it. And depends on what to break. You make a hole in it. So if it's a keli that's made for liquid, if you have a hole that the liquid could run out, breaking it that way doesn't have tumah anymore. And the Rebbe wants to use this as a moshel. It's a halacha, but it's a moshel. The luchas, the way they are, the maaseh elikim, just the fact that the Eibishter made it, is like a very precious, expensive raw material. Doing that, at that point, the tumah cannot touch the luchas. The tumah, in this case, the moshel of the tumah is the egel. The egel brought the tumah, brought the luchas, something affected the luchas. So the way the luchas were in the beginning, which was maaseh elikim, had it been maaseh elikim itself, it wouldn't have been affected by the tumah, by the egel. Because it became even better, and it got the ksav of the Eibishter, now it's roy to kabel tumah. Now that it's roy to kabel tumah, why is it roy now to kabel tumah? Because it reached the higher madrege. Now that they reached the higher madrege, and it's roy to kabel tumah, even if that extra goes away, it still stays tummy. Why? Had this been it wouldn't become tummy, this matzav. So how come it still stays tummy? Because after it got the higher level, that higher level stays with it. And b'meila, the tumah stays with it. And the only eitzah is to break it. So the same thing here, this is what happened here. What Moshe Rabbeinu did, he brought down the maaseh elikim with the michtav elikim. The egel would not have affected the maaseh elikim. The egel only affected after there was also the michtav elikim. When the michtav elikim went away, it still had the effect from the egel, just like by the keli. Like even though it goes back to the way it was before, because it became, the higher level became its madrege, and the tumah stays. And the eitzah is to break it. So Moshe Rabbeinu broke it. Let's learn inside. If you have a raw piece of material, the most very expensive, it's not choshev still, at kadei lekabel tumah, can't be mekabel tumah. Ki'im tzorech liyas nasis hakela, when can it be mekabel tumah, when can it become tumah, if it becomes a kela? And a kela tzorech liyas gemura b'chol hashleima sh'ol b'rotzen. Has to become a kela with the whole shleimus as he had planned. Now, somebody who might have made a kela with not that far would have become tumah already. But since he planned to make more, it's not tumah till it gets the complete shleimus. After the kela is finished and became tumah, and then the extra of the kela, which made it able to become tumah, was missing now. So it lost the mile because now it doesn't have the shleimus that it had before. Now, since it doesn't have the shleimus, it should not be tumah, because we said in the beginning, without having the shleimus, it doesn't become tumah. So here it became tumah, but now the shleimus goes away. Because the tumosa imedes, it stays with tumah. And therefore, what's the eitzah? Ushviroso, to break it, mitafkida ha'ikri, from breaking it from what it's supposed to serve, from its function, the main function. Lamoshli says, mashke b'meitze mashke. The shurim, there are different shurim, what's called breaking. But if it's a kela made for liquid, meitze mashke, if liquid could go out, it's called broken. Zeo takanosa, that's the takone. Bitla tumah, you have to mevatel the tumah. So this is the similarity to the case of the luches. The ness is that we have a little understanding of what the Rebbe meant is order 15. The Rebbe says, when he says that when the shleimus is missing of the kela legabe tumah, how does that apply to the inyan of the luches? So he says the dugma is porach haruach kedesh b'aksav, that the ksav left and the ruach kedesh of the ksav left. That's similar to the shleimus leaving the kela, and since the shleimus left the kela, it still stays tumah. So here also, when the words left, it's still the tumah, the egel that affected it still stays affected. And that's what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? There's no choice in a case like this, only to break it. But the Rebbe Vavorens weiter, let's go weiter. Now, the Hine Luches, by Luches 7, the Luches were stone. Shafilu Kela Gomer in Makabal Tumah. B'chala Kela of stone can't be Makabal Tumah at all. So what do we mean here when we're comparing? Again, I'm saying the pshat. The Rebbe doesn't say it clearly. I'm trying to put in the pshat. The Rebbe is like asking, what do I mean when I say that we compare the fact that the luches got the tumah and b'meila they had to break it? Luches can become tumah. They're stone v'chlal. The eid v'ikir v'chlal. Afilu b'osari edid min the shemayim toru. Anything that comes to shemayim, it can become tumah. I feel there's a din in Gemara. If your meat came in a shemayim, it's toyer. Valachas kama v'kama luches shemayim selikim hema. Certainly luches that Eibusher made it. So what do we mean it's tumah? So the Rebbe said, I don't mean it's tumah. It's only a dugma. This is all, every word here. The Rebbe is so short. The Rebbe wrote it. There's a din like this. Certain things are considered toher. So he says, Lamoshel, in dinim of tumah v'tara, there's a din like this. There are certain things that in chulun, in regular things, secular things,